All right, so here's some retirement mistakes that let's go ahead and try to avoid. Now, the first one is moving, and that is really easy to think about, especially if you're from the cold north and, where you have 4 good seasons and you're going to move down to the deep south and you think, oh, this is going to be great. It's going to be sunshine all the time and whatnot. And you get down there and it's a lot of heat, it's a lot of humidity, and big bugs. They got big bugs down south. We're far enough north in Texas that it's not too bad up here. We're up in the Panhandle. But yeah, going from the northern, I moved from Wyoming down to Louisiana, and that was quite a culture shock. And I was not used to that heat and humidity, and it was pretty tough on me. Now, that was when I was 18 years old. After that, we moved all around the country. And, one of the places that I really, really liked was Western New York in the Buffalo area. 4 good seasons, none of them too bad. Springs, falls were wonderful. Summer wasn't too hot. And I really liked it there. But I would suggest if you're thinking about retiring and moving, that you go ahead and spend some time in the area that you're thinking about moving to. Don't just jump up, retire one day, put your house up for sale, and head down south or head to the west or the east or wherever you're going, just because it sounds good and you've read a lot of magazines on it. Go ahead, spend some time there, and I would suggest going there in different seasons of the year. I know we spent some time in Florida during the winter months, and it is wonderful in Florida in the winter. It really is. It's like Groundhog Day. I mean, it's sunshine, it's 70 degrees, rain once in a while. It is wonderful. Yeah, we'll wait until summer comes and you're going to pay for a lot of that. That's why they're called snowbirds. That's why they go there in the wintertime and then they leave in the summertime. Yeah. So that's another strategy that you can have. But anyway, spend some time there before you invest a lot of money in a new house or something like that. And now number 2 here can be a little controversial, right? It's taking your Social Security too early. So what I mean by that is there are times that you need to take your Social Security. If you're being forced into retirement because of health issues, if you're not in good health, and you don't think that your longevity is going to be that good, those are reasons that you would go ahead and take your Social Security at 62 or as early as you could. But in other cases, sometimes that doesn't make sense because the earlier you take your Social Security, the less that you get. And it's about 6% per year up from 62 to 67. And then from 67 to 70, it's like 8%. So, if you could wait from the time you're 62 until you're 70, that is a substantial amount of money on a monthly basis. Now, it gets very controversial because a lot of people don't feel like Social Security will be there much longer. And, I'm not going to weigh into that. I don't want to get into the politics of all that. But it's a very personal decision, and you shouldn't take it lightly because once you take that Social Security, I think you can back out of it within 12 months if you pay it back, when you take it at 62. But I don't think that's something you want to do on a whim. You want to take a good hard look at that. All right, number 3 is taking your money and sticking it in the mattress or in just a savings account and not investing it. It's important that you not only save money, but you need to invest your money because you need to beat inflation. If you're not beating inflation, your money is actually losing money. It's like I said in some other videos, when you have an emergency fund, and I would say always try to have 3 to 6 months in an emergency fund, when you have that, it's not gaining you money. So, having this huge emergency fund is not always the best way to go about it. You need to invest, you need to let your money grow and beat inflation and keep it in the market or some very high yield investments. So that can really save you. Don't just stick it in a savings account and say, I'm going to be safe and I'm going to leave it there, because over the years it's just going to dwindle away on you. Hey, I'd like to pause the video for just a minute and ask you if you would, go down into the comments section and leave me a comment. This little channel is starting to build a little bit of momentum, and it would help YouTube's algorithm reach out and find other people for this video if we had a little more interaction. So let me know where you're from. Let me know, what you think some common mistakes that you might fall into would be, or if you are retired, share with the community what some of the problems or mistakes that you made. Okay, so with the life expectancy of 77 years old, that's how long I'm going to plan to live, and I'm going to build my retirement plan around that at 77 to 80 years old. That could be a problem, because if you live into your 90s, you're going to run out of money, and that is the number one fear of retirees, is that they'll outlive their money. So you got to be careful. I would go ahead and overshoot that to 90 or 95, something like that. And if you look at your spending in retirement, your spending goes in kind of a smile. You're going to start out spending a lot, and then you're going to get into your slower pace of life, or your slow-go years, and your spending's going to slow down a bunch because you've worked off your bucket list items and things like that. And then towards the end of life, it's going to go back up. Why? Because of medical bills, right? You're not going to be as healthy. You might need long-term health care. So you're going to spend more at the end of life. So that can be a real problem if you only plan to live to 77 and you end up living to 95. Okay, another common mistake that you might make could be the timing of your retirement. Yeah, the timing. So you may retire too early, and you get into retirement and you think, wow, this is it. This is it. I could have accomplished more in my career had I stayed. And that can be a real big letdown for some people. So you got to be careful about retiring too early, and also retiring too early and not having enough, funding to fund the retirement that you want. So be careful about that, and make sure that your funding is good, and that you're not leaving anything on the table at work, right? Because you can always work a little bit longer. You can't get those years back. But you also, once you retire, it's hard to get that job back unless you're self-employed or something like that. Now, the other problem is, just on the flip side, is working too late, being too conservative, saying, you know what, I don't want to retire. And I did a video here just a little while ago where I talked about some good people I knew at work who were just scared to retire. There was more stress on them thinking about retiring and whether they'd have enough money and what they would do in retirement versus going ahead and retiring. So, it can go both ways. So the timing of your retirement is something you need to think about. And you need to be thinking about it, well before you retire. YouTube actually is a great source for people, like this channel and others, who can kind of go through, what we went through after we retired, and the things that we think we may have left on the table or not. Personally, myself, I think I retired just a little bit too late. I had pretty much given everything I feel that I had to give to my company and my career. And, but I did stay an extra year, and I stayed an extra year because of finances. I wanted to pay off a couple more debts that we had. And, I'm glad I did. I'm not going to say the working one more year thing was so horrible for me. I think it worked out well for my wife and I, because it put us financially in a little better place. And it always will. Working one more year is always going to make more sense financially. Number 6 is not planning for health costs. Now, if you've been working, you may have had your health insurance pretty much paid for and not paid attention to the skyrocketing, cost of health insurance. It's amazing. Mine is $1,900 a month. Yes, $1,900 a month. So I've got to bridge that gap between, I'm 62 now, and Medicare. I got 3 years that I got to pay for that. So I had to figure out how to fund that, and I had to have it built into my retirement plan. And Medicare is not free either. So, don't go into it thinking, well, I'll be 65 next year, I'll retire, and everything will be free, because Medicare is not free. You have to pay for that. The other thing to think about is long-term health care. when you get older, will you need long-term health care? Nobody really knows for sure, but you got to take a look at it and say, well, I have a house, and I have different assets that I will be able to sell, and I can go ahead and I can self-insure myself for my long-term health care, because once I go into assisted living or long-term health care, I probably won't need my house anymore. And you can take a look at different variables like that. If you don't have a house, if you're renting and don't have a lot of assets, you may want to take a policy out to kind of protect yourself if you need to go into long-term health care and assisted living. All right, and the last one, number 7, is avoid scams. There's a lot of people out there really trying to scam seniors, and it's sad, it really is, but it's happening just about everywhere. You really need to be aware of these scams. If it seems like it's too good to be true, it probably is, So make sure that you have someone that you can call back. If you get a phone call, telemarketer, something like that, go ahead and make sure they give you a callback number, but they're going to try to pressure sell you into something. And, the best I can say is if they say we've got to do this now, is, just hang up. It's probably not for real. So be sure and not fall for those scams. Make sure and get, a website that you can go visit, things like that. Because I haven't run into one yet that I have actually, entertained going into and participating in that particular phone call. So just be very, very careful about what you spend your money on and giving out any personal information. A lot of times they'll say that they need your social security number, they need your address, they need your phone number, they need your email. No, do not give that stuff over the phone. It's just not a good idea to give your personal information over the phone, so try not to do that. So I hope this video has helped you out, and if it has, I'd appreciate it if you reach down, hit that like button, and watch this video next.